Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled you're here today because we are going to completely unravel a topic that is honestly so often misunderstood. We're exploring the rigorous historical and mathematical mechanics behind classical astrology. So, I need you to forget what you think you know about modern psychological astrology, which, fun fact, really only emerged in the 20th century. We are going way back to the roots. We're talking about an intricate synthesis of Babylonian mathematical rigor, Egyptian stellar mythology, and Hellenistic philosophy that literally established a systematic language for interpreting the heavens.
Right off the bat, I want to ask you a pretty provocative question. Is there more to astrology than your daily horoscope? We're going to shift our perspective completely away from those vague, modern newspaper blurbs and instead look at an ancient, highly systematic framework of geometry. You see, to the ancients, reading a natal chart wasn't a personality quiz. It was performing a technical audit of the soul's descent into matter. It was literally a blueprint of terrestrial destiny.
Here's our Astro 101 syllabus for today. First, beyond the sun sign. 2. Actors, costumes, and stages. 3. The geometry of the stars. 4. The 4 birth deities. And finally 5. Destiny in motion.
All right, part 1, beyond the sun sign. Let's dismantle this myth.
Okay, let's dive right in. To really grasp classical astrology, we absolutely have to drop the idea that you are just a single zodiac sign. We need to look at the foundational elements of a birth chart. Think of a birth chart as a literal freeze frame of the sky at the exact moment and location you were born. And right at its core are the big three. These three specific components work together to form the central threads of your astrological identity. Your sun sign reveals your life's purpose and vitality. Your moon sign describes your body, your instincts, and your emotional world. And your rising sign, or ascendant, which is the exact degree of the sign rising on the eastern horizon the minute you were born, well, that highlights your core motivation for living. It's the very mask you wear in the world.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. The ancients brilliantly divided these charts using a concept called sect. It's incredibly binary and structural. If you were born during the day, meaning the sun was above the horizon, you have a diurnal chart, and the sun is your light leader. But if you were born at night with the sun below the horizon, you have a nocturnal chart, and the moon takes over as your light leader. This simple astronomical fact radically shifts which planets in your chart are empowered to help you and which ones might, cause you a bit of trouble. Which is the perfect segue into our next section, where we treat the astrological chart just like a highly structured theater production.
Moving on to part 2, actors, costumes, and stages, the building blocks.
I absolutely love this framework. It's a brilliant theater analogy straight from the classical sources, and it makes these super abstract concepts so much more concrete. In this system, the planets are the actors. They're the who. They are the agents actually doing things and making change. The zodiac signs, those are the costumes or styles, the how. They basically filter the planet's energy, changing how the actor performs. And the houses are the stages, the where. They represent specific areas of your actual life, like your career, your home, or your relationships.
So let's take a look at our actors. Remember, this is before the invention of the telescope. The ancients objectively classified the 7 visible wandering stars into very specific roles based on their physical natures. First, we have the benefics, Venus and Jupiter. These are the good guys, viewed as helpful, expansive forces bringing harmony, pleasure, wisdom, and abundance. Then we have the malefics, Mars and Saturn. These act as heavier, far more challenging forces, stirring up conflict, obstacles, and fear. Finally, we have the luminaries, that's the sun and moon, and Mercury, which is kind of the wild card, considered completely neutral and adaptable depending on who it hangs out with.
And where do these actors perform? Well, on the 12 stages, better known as the houses. These are categorized by their pacing and modality. The angular houses, that's the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th, are the main cornerstones of life. They are super action-oriented, representing yourself, your home, your partnerships, and your career. The succeeding houses, on the other hand, step in to offer stability and security, managing your resources and your social life. And finally, the cadent houses are the spaces of change, transition, and endings. They rule over your subconscious, travel, and your health regimes.
All right, part 3, the geometry of the stars, reading the script.
Now that we have our actors and our stages, we need to figure out how they actually talk to each other. We are moving down from that big macro view into the precise micro-level geometry that dictates the literal script of the chart. And this script, it's written in aspects and orbs. Because the natal chart is a perfect 360-degree circle, planets communicate based on the exact mathematical angles they form with one another.
When two planets are in an aspect, their energies mix. An orb is simply the number of degrees that separate one planet from making an exact, mathematically perfect aspect with another. Think of it like volume. The tighter the orb, the louder those actors are yelling at each other across the stage.
The ancients relied on 5 major, or Ptolemaic, aspects. A conjunction is a 0-degree merger where planetary energies completely fuse together. A sextile at 60 degrees and a trine at 120 degrees are harmonious. They bring gifts, opportunities, and ease. Basically, the actors are getting along perfectly. But as you can guess, it's not all smooth sailing. The square at 90 degrees and the opposition at 180 degrees represent real friction, perfect hatred, and serious tugs of war. These are the aspects that force action and create all the major conflicts in the story of our lives.
And this next concept brilliantly illustrates just how dynamic this geometry can get. The classical texts outline a process called the translation of light. Okay, imagine two heavy, slow-moving planets that are absolutely not talking to each other. Step 1. A swift planet, let's say Mercury, separates from one of those heavy planets. Step 2, it speeds along the zodiac and joins the other heavy planet. Step 3, that swift planet literally translates the influence and virtue of the first one to the second. It's exactly like a neighbor stepping in to perfectly reconcile two friends who are having a massive feud. It's an incredibly precise mathematical resolution of energy.
Section 4. The 4 birth deities. The architecture of fate.
Let's zoom back out now to the architecture of fate. Because beyond just the planets, classical astrology relies on highly complex, fatalistic mathematical points called lots that the ancients believed guided a person's ultimate destiny. Listen to the sheer historical weight in this ancient quote from Macrobius. The Egyptians also maintain that 4 deities are present to preside over a man's birth: his daimon, Tuche, Eros, and Ananke, spirit, fortune, love, and necessity. Originally, these 4 lots were seen to indicate 4 actual guardian deities or spirits that incarnated with an individual right at birth to guide, protect, and provide for them.
Look at how these lots operate as mirroring pairs to shape real-life events. The lot of fortune represents the physical body, privilege, and pure chance, basically the blind luck you're born into. And this mirrors the lot of spirit, which is the mind, your intentions, and your choices, the things you deliberately pursue. Then we have the lot of Eros, representing divine love, wanting, and persuasion. And this perfectly mirrors the heavy lot of necessity, representing karmic bondage, compulsion, our enemies, and the inevitable struggles we absolutely must overcome in this lifetime.
Which brings us to part 5, Destiny in Motion. Let's look at a case study. So the absolutely crucial point here is seeing this highly complex mathematical system actually in action. To do that, we're going to reverse engineer the mechanics objectively. We're using the historical figure and visionary artist Frida Kahlo. Kahlo was born on July 6, 1907. And because we have her verified birth time, we can precisely calculate the mathematical geometry of her entire chart. Her lot of fortune sits in her 12th house, a stage traditionally associated with hidden things, hospitals, and chronic illness. Meanwhile, her lots of eros, her desires, and necessity, her compulsions and struggles, are co-present. They are sitting right next to each other in the sign of Taurus. Now let's see how this builds across the timeline of her life, tracking the transiting planets up in the sky against her natal lots. At age 6, Kahlo contracted polio, leaving her with a lifelong limp. At that exact time, transiting Mars, remember the lesser malefic, was conjunct her lot of necessity. At age 18, she survived a horrific bus accident that shattered her spine. Transiting Pluto was exactly conjunct her 12th house lot of fortune. And at age 22, she married Diego Rivera, a union defined by deep love but also profound wounding and betrayal. On her wedding day, transiting Chiron, known as the wounded healer, was exactly conjunct her lot of Eros. The mathematical planetary geometry aligned flawlessly with her most emotional and physical milestones. It's almost unbelievable, right? And that right there is the mechanics revealed. Classical astrology isn't just about reading a psychological profile or relying on mere belief. Not at all. It is about observing a rigorous, structural framework. It uses exact degrees, mathematical lots, and incredibly precise planetary geometry to track what the ancients viewed as the soul's descent into matter, literally linking the heavens directly to terrestrial events. The early traditional literature gives us this amazing saying, "The stars incline, but do not determine." They provide a powerful, pre-written script, but the individual still has to navigate it. So, I want to leave you with this final thought to really ponder. If the stars provide the architecture of fate, how might understanding your own geometric script change the way you play your role on the stage of life?
Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it sparked your curiosity to learn more.